So something that I always ask my guests, obviously, is their best day and their worst day on the golf course. I wanted to give you guys a little background about my worst day on the golf course. I have two instances that I can think of. Both sucked, but they were obviously learning lessons. So the first one happened about 5 years ago. I was in our men's match play semifinals. And the gentleman I was playing with is a wicked golfer, and we ended up getting to the third hole. I think we're even at this point. He might have birdied the first hole, I birdied the second. We're all even through two. We're going to the third. Third's a par four, and I was going to hit an iron. It was my 7-iron off the tee. And I remember I took my club right back to my top swing, and as I had swung down, my club like shattered or my club fell apart. It was a feeling I had never had before. So I'm kind of like just in shock. I'm like, what the heck happened? I didn't even make contact with the ball and my club is like broken. What the hell happened? And my playing partner, he says, Brandon, you're bleeding. Like, what do you mean I'm bleeding? I looked down at my hand. It was my right hand. And there's a huge gash on my hand. So what ended up happening is on the top of the grip, maybe 3 or 4 inches down from the grip, I had ripped or broken the steel shaft from the grip. So as I had come down to start my swing, the broken shaft actually cut my finger. So looking down at my finger, it was kind of from my if I make a fist, my knuckle, if you were to punch something, that knuckle, all the way to my finger knuckle was gashed wide open. Like I could see the bone. So obviously I had to withdraw that match, and then we called the pro shop just to send a card out to pick me up. Obviously I had to go get stitches. They ended up calling an ambulance, which is a little embarrassing because obviously I could like walk, like I'm fine, I don't need an ambulance. But anyway, they end up calling an ambulance. They look at it, they're like, yeah, obviously you need some stitches. They're like, if you want to save a couple $100, get someone to drive you to a clinic and they'll stitch you up. So I ended up getting 6 or 7 stitches on my my right index finger, and I think the worst part was just getting the freezing into the finger. But it was maybe a 2 or 3 week healing period. I had kind of like a small mini bandage on my finger, and I remember golfing. Like I probably made the healing process last longer because I wanted to golf so bad that I was golfing with my stitched finger and a bandage. So that was one thing that I can remember being a not so great day, that here you're trying to go play a match play semifinal, and I ended up obviously cutting my finger. So that sucked. The good thing that came of it is at the time the clubs were like 3 years old, and I wrote to them. I wrote to the club manufacturer. I can't tell you who they were, but they were a big club manufacturer, and I told them what happened. And I sent them a picture of my finger because obviously it was pretty gruesome. And I said, look, I'm scared to play these clubs with the fear of something else happen. So I sent the club in, they examined it. They said, obviously, it's broken. We can't deem how it broke or if it was broken previously. They said, what we're going to do is we're going to replace the club, which with them, it was, in good faith. But at the time, I was pretty upset that I was scared of it happening with my other clubs. So I said, look, I appreciate you wanting to fix my one club, but I'm scared to use the rest of my set in just fear of this happening again. So what they did is they said, tell you what, sign this non-disclosure and we'll send you a new set of clubs. So again, I can't tell you who the company was, but I said, which PGA Tour player is playing this one brand type of club, and so they ended up sending me a full new set of irons. So I was really appreciative of what they had did. The irons were great. I ended up getting my first and only ever hole-in-one with that set of irons, and so kind of a crummy situation, but the manufacturer did a really awesome job as far as replacing that set, because it was such a freak accident. Like, it was so weird. It wasn't on impact, it was at the top of my backswing. Just the torque of pulling the club down is what broke that shaft. My other terrible golf experience, this happened just last year. We were in a winter trip to Phoenix, and I was playing an early round golf with my brother and my wife Jess. And at about the second or third hole, I could just feel this weird lower pain in my back. And at first I thought it might have been gas, but it was just a weird feeling that I had just never felt before. So I played through the first couple holes, and I remember I was playing well. I think I was like 2 or 3 under through 4. And this pain just kept progressively getting worse and worse and worse. I said, you know what, maybe I'll just go to the washroom and see if this will pass. And anyway, as I get there, it's continually getting worse and worse and worse. Now I'm in a lot of pain, and just knowing your body when something's not right, this was like instantly like something is not good here. So within the next half hour, my pain went from about a 3 to a 4 to like a 9. So I'm I get Jess, my brother. I said, we got to go. Like, something is totally wrong. Like, we need to go see a doctor, go to a hospital. Something is wrong. By the time I get to the pro shop, I can't even sit. I'm like fully hunched over, and my back is freaking killing me. So I Google, WebMD, instant lower back pain. And the first thing that came up was kidney stone. So I had never even really heard of a kidney stone prior, but all of the symptoms that I was experiencing seemed to be a kidney stone. So I told the kid in the back shop to call me in an ambulance. Now, I'm a Canadian traveling to the States. Thank God I had insurance coverage on my credit card. So they end up calling, it works a little different in the States. The first responders were firemen. So at this point, I'm like dry heaving, throwing up in the parking lot of this golf course, and just in like so much pain. Like, I've never been in this much constant pain before. So the fire department come, they check my vitals. They're like, look, your vitals are okay, but it sounds like you're having a kidney stone. Have you had a kidney stone before? No, I haven't. They said, well, we can get you an ambulance, but again, if you want to save some money, get your wife to drive you. There's a clinic or a doctor's office just down the road. So I couldn't even sit in the car. I had to lie sideways just because any pressure that I put on my lower back just totally killed the pain. So had I not been with like my wife or my brother, I don't know how I would have made it through this, because I couldn't even talk. Like, I was just in so much wincing pain constantly that I really couldn't talk. So I gave all my cards to Jess, and she goes to check in with the lady at this, let's call it an emergency clinic. And I'm in the waiting room, and again, I couldn't sit. I'm on like my knees and elbows, like basically like in the doggy position, because that was the only position I could be that was just not this most excruciating pain. Anyway, I end up getting in to see the doctor. They do a CAT scan. They said, yeah, you got a kidney stone, and it's just about to your bladder, so you kind of just got to deal with this. There's really nothing that they can do for a kidney stone. So they pumped me full of bag of fluids, gave me some morphine. The morphine brought my pain from probably a 10 to an 8, that it still was just not great. And they're like, look, you just have to pass it. So I've never felt so hopeless just being in that much pain and being like, I have no idea when this is gonna stop, but it freaking sucks so bad. Long story short, I ended up passing it that night, passed it naturally. It was just like the worst experience. So since I haven't had one, thank God, I've done everything I can, meeting with a nutritionist as well as a naturopath, just to go over the different types of foods that you put in your body. What I learned about these kidney stones is that the most common is called a calcium oxalate type stone, and that's when you're either deficient in calcium or oxalate. So the two kind of create a science experiment that they absorb each other, and then they drain through your bladder. If you're deficient in one or the other, they actually cling to your kidney. So over a year, or however long, they don't know, this stone had continually built up. Whether I was dehydrated, whatever happened, it broke off and then goes through your kidney into your urinary tract. So the pain isn't when it's in your bladder or when you pass it. The pain is as it goes from your kidney to your bladder. There's let's call it a 1/4 inch rock moving through an 1/8 of an inch tube. So it's the scraping and scratching of that stone making its way to the bladder to eventually you passing it. So anyone that's ever experienced this, I have so much sympathy for you that it freaking sucks. The biggest key to not getting one is just to stay hydrated. So now I drink more water than I've ever drank before in my life to continually flush my system. If you're not a big drinker of water, try to drink as much water as you can, because anything to avoid this is so worth it. Like, it sucked so bad. The only way I could explain it to someone is if I was to guess what it felt like to be shot like by a gun, like through my lower back, that's what I would guess that it felt like. Like, it just sucked so bad, and it was so uncomfortable. It was really life-changing. And it actually had a lot of psychological damage after the fact, just from dealing with that experience. I would wake up every day like, am I going to have another kidney stone? Am I going to have another kidney stone? And it's just, you start living in fear. And obviously, since that has passed, it's been over a year and a half. But it sucked. So as far as worst days on the golf course, that was it by far. So now 2 times an ambulance has been called to the golf course for me. One, I think I needed it. The other, I obviously didn't. But those were definitely my worst days on the golf course. My best days on the golf course, I've been in what they call the zone. So twice I can think of all time I've ever been in the zone. Sometimes pro athletes talk about being in the zone, whether it's Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant putting up like 81 points. It's just whatever you do, it's effortless and it goes exactly the way you want it to. So both at the time were my career low rounds. The first time was 3 or 4 years ago. I shot a 65 in my men's night. Or no, it was men's league. It was actually in a tournament, like a doubles match play. I had shot a 65, and it was just one of those days where everything was going at the pin. It was the middle of the fairway, pin, one putt. If I missed my putt, it was a two putt. Like, I had never been that low. I think at the time I was maybe like a two cap, and I had like par rounds, maybe 1 under, 2 under, but nothing to that extent. So at the time, 72 or 7 under par, 65, by far my best round. And to look at results like that, it's so fun that you put some practice and some effort into something, and then it just, the light clicks and it turns on. I didn't come anywhere close to that, not even until a couple years after. Last year I shot my now career low. I shot a 63s on our men's night final. So it was tournament play. I had to play by the rules, had to play by the book. And the odd thing about this 63s that I was actually playing with a 5-some. So this was our men's league final. We were in a commercial league. You're in a team of like 10, 12 guys, and this is the final that you and all of your team go out and you just, I don't know if it was a Stableford or what the format was, but you just go out with guys on your team. So some teams had a 3-some, other had a 5, a 6, but that's the one interesting thing about this round. And then it was a shotgun, so we started on like the 13th hole, and I think I had like 6 or 7 pars. Like I was for my stars, there's a par. And then we get to a drivable 17th. The drivable 17th hole, I think it maybe like 360, 370 downwind, but I've hit it a couple times. So I end up driving the green, and I'm looking at like a 40-foot putt, kind of like uphill slider, and I end up sinking the putt. So here I am 2 under with a bunch to play, that I'm like, wow, okay, maybe I can do something here. Anyway, that round I had 7 birdies and that eagle. So I obviously went on a heater after I had eagled that par 4. Anyway, so that was by far the best round that I had ever had. A 63 is something that I can, kind of hang my coat on, that it was unreal. And like I said, just being in the zone, you kind of black out, that you don't think about any swing thoughts. You have an objective. I'm going to hit the middle of the fairway. Boom. I'm going to hit it to 10 feet. He hit it 10 feet. Like, to just have that confidence to just go at pins. This is what pros must operate at full time to shoot these scores on a regular basis. Like, I've only done it once in my life, and I haven't come anywhere close since. That it's really just so impressive as to what these guys do. Obviously, I've had a million of phenomenal rounds with wicked friends and family on beautiful courses, but I'll never forget those 2 rounds to shoot a 63 and a 65. So that's my best and worst days on the golf course. I thought I'd just give you a little bit of history as far as my experiences on the golf course. I had some questions about the pictures that I have in my podcast studio behind me. I'm going to kind of just go through them so that in my future videos, why are these pictures behind me. So I'll go from my left over my shoulder. There's a picture of the, in my opinion, the godfathers of golf, at least for me, knowing the golf, obviously being in my 20s, Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. 2 guys that really helped grow the game. I think Arnold Palmer was the first professional athlete to ever have an endorsement deal. I think Wilson Golf was the first ever sports endorsement deal, that he kind of opened the doors for athletes to start making money outside of golf. So now you look at every golfer that has a watch that they wear, or a patch on their shoulder, or something on the top of their hat, that now these guys are making tons of money just from endorsements. Jack Nicklaus obviously won so many majors. Such good golfers. So anyway, this picture, I actually bought it for my dad one year, and my dad, like I mentioned in previous videos, has so much sports memorabilia stuff that I kind of went to his house to pick over some golf specific stuff just to hang in my podcast studio. So there's actually a bunch of stamps from some cool courses. There's like Pebble Beach, or what else is on there? Cypress, Kiowa. Anyway, there's a bunch of cool stamps. It's not autographed or anything. I just think it's a really cool picture of Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. So I think those guys are wicked. On kind of a side note, in one of my first videos, I talked about my dad getting autographed pictures. So I named off a bunch of golfers, and then I threw in Jack Nicholson in there, and the actor. And my dad does have an autographed picture of Jack Nicholson, but I don't know why I threw it into a whole bunch of golfers. I was talking about Arnold Palmer and Tiger Woods, Mike Weir, whatever. But yeah, I did a little at the time confuse the two, but to clarify, my dad does have a Jack Nicholson and Jack Nicklaus autograph, headshot 8x10. So anyways, someone did notice that in the comments, so I just wanted to clarify. Behind me, I found these autographed pictures of current PGA Tour players on a Facebook buy-sell page group. So I told you before about the head covers that I sold. Just a niche in head covers, buy, sell, Scotty Cameron. There's also a big niche in golf memorabilia. So this is a page that I found that these guys are, collectors of sports, and this was specifically golf autograph pictures. So I got a couple pictures framed of just golfers that I like and I enjoy looking at. So I never met these guys, but I definitely look up to them, and they're golfers that I really enjoy watching. One is Xander Schauffele. So Xander's another guy that I think can be in contention this week that I didn't talk about. I have bet on him, but he's another guy that could definitely be winning a major in the next couple years. Justin Rose is another guy that I really look up to. He's just so solid, been so solid for so many years. This year's been a little different for Justin Rose. I don't know what's going on with him. He had that big Homna deal, that new club company, and I think he's since left them. So a few endorsement changes. I know he's had a couple putter changes, but he's a guy that's really been steady for so many years. It's just a matter of time before he kind of comes back on top. And then another one is Hadeki Matsuyama. Hideki is one of my favorite golfers in some of the things that he does. I call it a Hadeki when you finish and then you start complaining. So he's so notorious for, hitting a good shot. The announcers can't really see where the ball is, and he throws his club or he drops his club or he's just so disappointed, and then it lands to 10 feet. So that just cracks me up every time I watch Hideki hit a good shot and he's so upset. So if friends do that, I definitely call them a Hadeki, or call it a Hadeki. When you hit a good shot, you look unimpressed. We also call that a jug violation. I don't know how many, there's got to be a ton of other people that play call a jug violation. Jug violation could be not hitting it past the ladies' tee, you owe a jug of beer. You putt off the green, you owe a jug of beer. In this case, you hit a shot that you don't think is good, it ends up being really good, you owe a jug of beer. So call it a jug, call it a Hadeki. Anyway, he's someone that I really enjoy watching. The last picture to my right, it'd be your left, is a big frame picture of something that's actually really special to me. It was the first time I had ever seen PGA Tour player golf. So this is something my dad had made up. My dad is a hobbyist professional photographer as well. So he'd shot so many sporting events, as well as, he's very accomplished in wildlife photography. He's actually on the cover of Canadian Geographic of their calendar last year. But this is a picture that he took himself and that he had made. It's from 2006 at the TELUS Banff Skins game. So at the Skins game, there was Jack Nicklaus, Sergio Garcia, John Daly, Greg Norman, Stephen Ames, and I think Mike Weir was there, a couple other guys. Anyway, it was in 2006. So how old am I in 2006? 14 years old. I'm at seeing my first time ever PGA Tour players. So we only live an hour and a half away from Banff, and to be at the Banff Springs Golf Course, it's an amazing world-class golf course, and I had obviously never played as a 14-year-old. But I got to walk around and watch, these guys. It was Sergio was just a big up-and-comer. John Daly obviously was huge. Greg Norman, already a legend. Jack Nicklaus, already a legend. And then Stephen Ames obviously was a touring pro at the time. He had that infamous loss to Tiger in the match play. I think he was talking a little trash, and then Tiger just mopped the floor with him. I can't even remember what the score was, but I know it was just horrendous. Anyway, this picture is autographed by Stephen Ames. And when I had played organized hockey, a guy that we played with was one of the neighbors who lived in a cul-de-sac with Stephen Ames, so they knew him personally. My dad had this picture blown up, and he actually sent it to this family to see if Stephen would autograph it for us, and he kindly did. So the autograph is from Stephen Ames, and then it's a wicked photo that I will probably have the rest of my life, that I just remember being at that tournament. A funny story from that tournament is we were spectating on a par 5. I think it's the second or third hole, and we're behind the green. These guys are hitting their second shot into the par 5, and I'm with a couple buddies, and we see a ball kind of come up in the air, and we think it's coming for us. And sure enough, the ball is landing, and it lands 6 inches to my right and hits my buddy. It hits my buddy. First ever PGA Tour event, and first time we see someone get hit, and it happens to be my buddy. So it was Stephen Ames. I think he had airmailed a long iron or a hybrid. He came over and then signed his glove and gave it to my buddy and made a quick joke. But I remember I was like, oh, man, I should have just dove in the way of that ball so I could have gotten hit and I could have got that glove. Anyway, so that's kind of the stuff behind me. I'm always growing my collection. I'll try to add more stuff over time, but that's just kind of a history of the stuff behind me. It's obviously a golf themed podcast. Oh, I'll tell you about my trophy too. This little trophy up front, if you can see it, is my mom is just the sweetest. My mom heard about my hole-in-one, my first ever hole-in-one, my only hole-in-one. I was on a guy's golf trip in the Phoenix area, and we were playing the Boulders course. I think it's in Carefree, Arizona. Anyways, like half hour outside of Phoenix, and we're playing a skins game. I'm playing just god awful, and then we get up to the signature hole. If you've seen this course, there's a big massive boulder. I don't know what it weighs, maybe it's gotta be like 10,000 pounds. It's massive rock. It's the Boulders course, and we're at the boulder. Anyway, hit a beautiful, it was an 8-iron. I think it was like maybe 175, 180 yards, kind of lands 6 feet right at the pin and then just sucks right in. And it was one of those like, oh my gosh moments. Like if you ever had a hole-in-one, it's almost too good to be true. But to see it was unbelievable. So in the skins game, that was the only hole that I won. So I didn't end up owing money, but I didn't win as much money as I obviously should have with a hole-in-one. So my mom is so sweet. She saw this little golfer trophy, I think at a Winners, and she ended up picking it up, and they got it engraved, and it's, you know, a Brandon Hewitt hole-in-one, the date, and the course. So she's just so sweet that she would go out of her way to make me something special. It's kind of a weird shape. Like I think whoever made the trophy clearly doesn't golf, because the position would be looking down the line and then you're following through like behind you. Maybe, you know, when Phil Mickelson hit that flop shot like behind him and it goes backwards, maybe that's what he did. So anyway, it's so nice of my mom to have made that for me. She's just so cute. And then this little golf ball just at the base of that is autographed by Blair O'Neill from the Golf Channel, or Big Break. She's obviously a huge personality on Instagram and social media. Jess and I went to it was called the Diamond Resorts Invitational. This is 2 years ago. We did a winter trip to Florida, and the Diamond Resort Invitational was on. We got a 2-day pass, and we just walked around. It was pretty cool to get access. There was a mix of celebrities, LPGA, tour players, and then there was some Champions Tour players too. So we're big Blair fans. We followed Blair for a couple holes, and she made a rough bogey and a par 5, and we're in the gallery. The gallery's not very big. There's maybe like 30 people around, and we're kind of walking with her to the next tee on the side of the ropes. And I said to Blair, I said, hey Blair, I said, do you want me to get rid of that ball for you? Like it's not doing too well. I think you need to change the ball. So she kind of smiled and walked to the tee. She hits her tee ball on the next hole, and we continue to walk with her, and she says, hey, I think this ball might do you guys better than it did me. So she had signed it and then threw it to Jess and I. So it was so nice of Blair to acknowledge us and then to send or throw us a signed ball. So obviously I have a ton of golf memorabilia stuff. This is just stuff that I wanted to decorate inside of the podcast studio. Like I said, it's going to continually grow. And anyway, it's just kind of a bit of a history and my personality as to, you know, why we're big into golf, and I just wanted to share with all of you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like, comment, do what you can to support the golf community, and I hope all of you guys enjoy the game as much as I do. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time.